Greetings, hello chaps, fellow Fattercasters. How the devil are you? I'm warm. That's how I am. It's been a warm one today. I'm sweating like a fat lad in a cake shop. Cheers, though, everyone. I have some cooling, soothing libation to keep me lubricated. So, before we go any further. Oh, dear me, that's good. It's always the best one, isn't it? That first gulp. As usual, we are on the Carlsberg export tonight because once again, my local Morrisons just don't do the cans of they do the little cans, the silly little ones that are the same size as a tin of Pepsi, but I'm a big lad. I need a bigger can than that. And I have to say, I have kind of developed something of a liking for the Carlsberg export, but that's by the by. Let's have a look and see who's in and who's... Is it going to be Rent to Kill again this week? Indeed it is. Rent to Kill, first in. I don't know how you do it, mate, but you always seem to. Then we've got David James, Peter Nicholson, Terry Day. There's Anton as well, and Mr. Toonen, Edwin from Amsterdam. Drinking Heineken's 750 years Amsterdam beer. Okay. Is it some sort of Amsterdam Heineken anniversary? Peter Collins is in, so is Tom Clark, Paul Trainer, BSC, Mark Kerno. There's Fiend Tunes. And who else have we got? Oh, Paul Trainer, regular as clockwork, a couple of quid in the tip jar. Thank you so much, mate. Much appreciated. We've got Autogeddon 1, Johnny Random. There's Amadeus, Vincent Brennan, Stephen Paul, Dave Fiendish. Let's put you up on screen, Dave. What the hell? Afternoon, John and fellow Fattercasters. It's that Friday feeling brought on by this evening's live and, of course, us lot. Indeed, you are the chaps that make it. I just sit here and blether into a webcam. Without you lot, I'd be sat here talking to myself, something that I regularly do anyway, but we won't go into that. It says, cheers, John and Fattercasters everywhere. Well, I'll second that. And we got Boulder 64. We've got let's scroll down. Victory House, Ian Clark saying hi from sunny Sussex. Anyone getting emails from Bax Music? Are they back or is it a scam? There was a website that I can't remember who it was that pointed it out to me, that had a load of, it looked like the Bax website, with £1,000 guitars going for 150 quid. And, it just smelt a little bit scammy. So I meant to mention it on that week's live stream, but I forgot because I'm an idiot. But I don't know if they genuinely are back this time. Let's have a look. Where are we? PFY Guitars is in, so is Grandpa Joe, who's back home to enjoy the stream. He's been on his travels as Grandpa Joe, Antigua no less. Considered joining John's Patreon. Oh, thank you, Joe. If you enjoy the weekly stream, you'll love the content on his Patreon, plus a twice-a-month live chat with John. Yeah, that is that Patreon Zoom thing I do every couple of weeks. That is... It's like the live stream, but everybody's on screen and we can chat rather than me chatting and you guys typing. And there's a great little community building up there. So I can highly recommend it. I look forward to it anyway. Then we got Dr. Gomez 1, Francis Chambers, John Ross, and we've got Ben Allmark, Cylon Hybrid. Chris Ottewell is in. So is Gordo Canuck, Malcolm Spillett. Jimmy James, Stephen Hedger, and Doc Alders is in. Good evening from Sheffield, fellow Fattercasters, where the weather is so good it could be mistaken for California, but without the troops. Hey, yes, but yes, but it has been a warm one here again today. I don't get on with warm weather. It doesn't suit my constitution, my delicate, fragile constitution. Why some people, and this mystifies me, why some people kind of save up to go and endure 2 weeks of kind of hot, scratchy, sweaty, kind of grouchy weather. It's the warm weather makes me all those things: hot, sweaty, scratchy, and grouchy. And some people go and want to go and kind of endure it as a form of relaxation for 2 weeks every year. If I live to be 100, I'll never understand that. Then we got Johnny D. Artist Bubba is in, and who else have we got? We've got Thomas Mulvaney. We've got Jimmy Jim. Said you already, haven't I? But there's Nathan, and Rexamatic is in as well. John Channing is there. So is 60s Man and Dave Snack Stevens, who's in charge of the music at his local pub tonight. And you'll have to catch us on Catch Up. Well, if you're watching on Catch Up, Dave, or anyone else that's watching on Catch Up, then just whatever time of day it is, pretend it's 5 o'clock on a Friday and crack open a beer. The Lamb is in. Who else have we got? We've got Blue Sofa Songs and Cal Texpert, Colin Falcon is there. Cal B and the Rocco Cat is in as usual, regular of this parish. There's Robin Fawcett, Jay Aoyong, and anyone else. Peter Williamson, Peter S is in as well. Nick Shaw, and let's have a look further down. Pablo Hank is there. So is Greg H, Brad Dowell, and anyone else. We got Searching for Tone is in as well. Anyone else? There's Michael Purcell and Mr. Chris, 5254. Graham Campbell's there, so is Eva Dunstan, all the way from Swansea. And Mark Fay is in. And there's another nice little tip in the tip jar from the Lamb. Loved seeing Dire Straits in the top 5. Cheers. They always had to be, mate. A lot of people were saying, why didn't you put the Beatles in your top 10 rock bands? Because I mean, they're one of my favourite bands, but they are, to categorise them as a rock band is just doing them a disservice. I think they are over and above any genre, and they are just, there is a genre called the Beatles and they belong in that. Maybe I think I've done me favourite Beatles moments once before, but I might have to do that again because I just want to bang the drum for them a little bit for people who don't quite get what they're on, what they're about. Anyway, let's have a look. Anyone else that I haven't mentioned yet? There's William Forrest and Ken McGurr and anyone else. Neil Darby, Steve Cassidy's in as usual. Triple X Paps. Don't forget Steve's video straight after this live stream. And we got Hoog Jr. and we've got Mr. Chris. Thank you so much, Mr. Chris. More money in the tip jar. I will make sure it goes to a good home. Anyway, moving on. There's Mark Kerno's trying the Beavertown Neck Oil IPA tonight. Thought it was fitting. Well, why not? Anyone else that I haven't mentioned? I think that's pretty much everyone. Apologies if I've missed your name, but blame that on me being an idiot rather than anything sinister. I think that's pretty much everyone. Thank you, everyone, for turning up. And over the next, not quite an hour now, I'm just going to talk about bits and pieces. Well, you know the drill. I'm going to drink beer and talk cobblers for a little while. Is that okay with you lot? It seems to be the way that it always pans out. Couple of things on my notepad here that I've made notes about that I want to just talk briefly about without trying to jump on any kind of bandwagon, that is. But first of all, let me tell you what's coming up on the channel this week. Sunday, my first ever genuine Gibson Les Paul Jr. experience. A single pickup Junior that was loaned to me to do a video with. By the same chap who loaned me that 40th anniversary Telecaster that you saw a couple of weeks ago. 40th anniversary Squier Telecaster, that is. Lovely guitar, that was. Well, he's loaned me another one of his guitars. Well, he's loaned me a few, but you just haven't seen them yet. And this week, it's the Les Paul Jr. And it's one of the dreaded robot tuner ones, and you'll find out what I think of those on Sunday. Monday's video is another rock soloing lesson, and this coming week, we're looking at the whole spandex and poodle perm 80s neoclassical rock fest. I'm not wearing spandex in the video, and I don't have a poodle perm as you can probably tell. But yeah, it's basically how to kind of bluff your way through that genre without having sort of Yngwie Malmsteen, Tony McAlpine, Vinnie Moore levels of technique. You can still harness a little bit of that flavour for your own solos and for your own tunes and whatever you want to do it with, basically. But it's basically how to kind of not need to be a virtuoso of the Malmsteen variety to be able to play that. Then Tuesday is we did a top 10 last week, didn't we? But we're back to a top 5 video this week. And it's my 5 favourite rock guitar riffs from the 70s. Yeah. One of those videos, I thought I must have done that in the past. I must have surely done that in the past, but I go through my archive of videos, scroll all the way back to about 2018 when I started the channel in its current form, and I haven't done that. So that's what I'm doing on Tuesday, my top 5 classic rock riffs from the 70s. Wednesday is the last of the home recording videos. You think of all the stuff we've covered in there, what hardware you need, what software you need, how to hook it all up, how to use plugins and all of this sort of stuff, and how to do a mix, how to play along with a jam track in a DAW. Well, that was one we looked at last week, and it's all just kind of tying a bow on it and finishing it off this week before we move on to a new series of Wednesday videos the following week. And then Thursday, I often think of the Thursday video as being the wildcard video, because Mondays is some sort of lead guitar lesson, Tuesdays is a top 5, Wednesdays is, well, it's part of a series that I'll be running, like, kind of viewers' questions, or like we've been doing the home recording thing. There's a new series starting off in that slot. Sunday's videos are always, some kind of guitar demo of some kind. So it's a Thursday video that I often think, well, what am I going to do there? And I try and just kind of make it like a little bit of a wild card type video. And it's I'm just blethering on this coming Thursday about why I think the 1970s was a golden age of rock music. And it's got nothing to do with me being, a child in the 70s. It's not me kind of looking back through rose-tinted spectacles of the music of my youth, because when I was 8 years old in 1975, I wasn't listening to rock music. I was listening to ABBA, or what else? What's Shawaddy Waddy, or what else was big in the charts in 1970? Probably Boney M. That was the music I was listening to when I was 8. I wasn't listening to Bad Company and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that, because that's not what you listen to. Well, I wasn't when I was 8 years old. So anyway, why the 1970s is the golden age of rock music. If you want to know why I think that, well, watch Thursday's video. And excuse me, I've been talking for some time, and I just need to kind of just oil the wheels a little bit. Oh, dear me, that's good. Right. We can't let the sad passing of one of rock music's utter geniuses pass without marking it in some way. Brian Wilson, 82 years old, passed away this week. And, what an absolute genius that guy was. I was trying to think of another word for genius there, but couldn't come up with one. But you know what I mean. I'm a huge fan of the Beatles, which I may have mentioned, for the innovations that they brought to rock music. And pop music, and just music in general, really. But equally, you could say that, well, it took, with the Beatles, it took Lennon and McCartney with a strong smattering of input from George Harrison to create the genius that was the Fab Four. And Ringo, of course. The Beach Boys, though, it was Brian Wilson all the way, wasn't it? He was just such a creative, prolific, tortured, perhaps, troubled individual, but dear me, he just had music running through every vein in his body, and he will be sorely missed. I remember when he did that comeback in the late 80s with that Love and Mercy album. That was just a sheer work of art, that album. When I heard the news that he'd left us, I listened to that album again that evening, and it just struck me just how great it was. It didn't sound like a lot of albums do from the late 80s, like a late 80s album. It sounded like a Brian Wilson album, and it's just formidable. He was a formidable talent, and he will be sorely missed. And he will be, I think, when music historians look back in 200 years' time, in the same way as we now talk about Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms, etc., all of those names, I'm sure that Brian Wilson will be one of the names that's spoken about in similar tones by future historians. So there you go. Rest in peace, Brian, and thank you for all of the music. Right, let's have a look and see what you've been chatting about while I've been blethering. Anton saying, admit it, the Nolan Sisters and Brotherhood of Man. I'll get my... Oh, yeah, Brotherhood of Man. I had the single, Save Your Kisses for Me. I had that. I was never into the Bay City Rollers. Back in 1975. Not my thing, it has to be said. Does anyone remember a sort of proto... sort of slightly Bay City Rollers-esque band called the Arrows, whose main claim to fame was that they did the original version of I Love Rock and Roll that was later a hit for Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Anyone remember them, or am I the only one? But when you can't, a band that you remember from decades ago, and you certainly remember them, and everybody you mention them to is just kind of gets a blank look, and you begin to wonder, well, am I imagining it? But I'm not, because I've checked up. They were a thing. Let's have a look. Oh, I see we've got Wilson Jones in. Nice to see you there, mate. Wilson Jones, what you're saying, I dare you to try the new Fender DAW, specially designed for guitarists to record. Yeah, I've seen a lot of chatter about that, and I've looked into it. But it appears that at the moment it doesn't support plugins. So how am I going to get drum sounds? And, it seems to be aimed at the sort of person who doesn't want to do much more than just kind of record as they would with a looper pedal. I might check it out when it's got a few more features. But I don't want to be one of these YouTubers that sort of jumps on a bandwagon where a new product comes out and everyone's all over it like a rash, feeling like they've got to kind of prove that they are up with the current trends, because it's. I think partially you just end up disappearing in a sea of similar videos if you do that. And I did a video, it's some time ago now, where I was kind of saying things I'd learned from making YouTube videos. And one of them is definitely only make videos on topics that you're interested in. Don't feign interest in a product or a subject just to kind of get clicks, because it will come across as being contrived and phony. So on that basis, I'm not going to be checking out the Fender DAW just at the moment, because I'm not that interested in it. If I'm if I'm being honest. Let's have a look. I'm Not Creative is saying, which guitar shop will be next to shut its doors, do you think, after hearing PMT closed its doors? Which, well, that brings me to the next thing I was going to say, because I don't want to jump on a bandwagon, but I do want to just kind of mention these things in passing if I have an opinion on them. Yeah, PMT gone. No more Dagon videos. I shall miss those. But it's guitar shops don't exist in a vacuum. I was writing about this in my blog today. They don't exist in a vacuum. They are retail businesses like any other bricks and mortar enterprise. And without getting into the politics of it, which I'm not going to do, but I will just say that the current environment in the UK is not very business friendly. We have a government who not one member of the government has ever run a business, or I think in most cases have never even worked for a business. They've never been in the private sector and had to justify their salary in terms of how they're affecting the bottom line. And that makes for, if you have people in positions of authority who don't understand how wealth is created, how jobs are created, how how an economy runs, essentially, then it means that you don't tend to get a regime which is sympathetic to enterprise. And I won't run through all of the, as I say, I don't want to get into the politics of it. It is just, you take a walk up Redcar High Street, for example, and look at the number of shops that have gone in recent years. And it's not just this current party that's in power. This is equally true of, across the political divide. There are businesses which were kind of fixtures and fittings. They were there for decades, and suddenly they're not there anymore because the environment just is, frankly, hostile to anyone that's trying to make a quid. And it could be any business that goes under next. It's not a good. I don't want to get too down on it because I'm not going to spend too long on this, but I wasn't surprised to see another retail business going to the wall in the current environment. Those are my thoughts on it. Anyway, Jay Aoyong saying, that's surprising. Watch several of PMT's videos a la Dagan. They always seem to be doing fairly well. Tour of flagship store was especially impressive. This is the thing. It's a fine line between between doing well and just falling on the wrong side of the balance sheet. As someone who used to own a retail business 12, 13 years ago, I can tell you that there are lots of hidden costs that here's one, for example, right? The retail space that we had for our business was 20 feet by 15 feet, a single room. We didn't even have a storeroom, right? We had one electricity socket and we had no toilet. We had no connect. The space that we rented was not connected to the water mains in any way. If we wanted to use a toilet, we had to go to the shop next door, who were also our landlords. It was the owners of the shop next door were renting out, our unit to us. We had no connection to the water mains, but the water charges we used to pay on that small 20 by 15 foot space, the water charges that we were legally mandated to pay for that space were more than the water charges we pay for this domestic dwelling. And that is you magnify that a million times by other things that you don't even think about in terms of money that's going out when you're running a business, and it just makes no sense at all. But them's the rules, essentially. Um, um, let's have a look. Steve Cassidy saying, "Are you sure it wasn't a shed?" It was about the size of a shed, mate, but it was made of bricks and mortar. Yeah, theme tunes. Retail isn't dying at all. It's just all moving online. The thing is that you're seeing Bax Music were online, GAC were online, PMT were online. Being online doesn't seem to save you. I think if the only premises you have is a warehouse somewhere, staffed by a night watchman and his cat, then perhaps that's the way it's going to go. But if you have any kind of real world customer facing storefront, then it's it's not an easy time. Anyway, excuse me. Jimmy James, I agree 100%. Rexomatic, enjoyed the video you sent over. Curious what resolution you use to shoot your videos as we experiment with our new series. Yes, Rexomatic, I'll just let you, there's a little spoiler alert here. Rexomatic, Rex, sent me one of these, not a Dumble pedal. Well, it comes in kit form. I built it. And I made a video with it, and that's going to be going out shortly. Well, I say shortly, back end of next month, because that's how far ahead I shoot these things. Just in time for these pedals to be discontinued. So, but the angle I'm putting on it is, are they worth tracking down on the used market? And if you want to know what my thoughts are, then you'll have to wait for the video to come out. But in answer to your question, Rex, I shoot the main sort of parts of the video into the webcam that I'm doing. StreamYard that I'm using now, unless I pay an exorbitant amount every month. If I just go with a free plan, then it's 1280 by 720, so it's in 720p. However, when I record my hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition, those bits of me videos, I'm on the same webcam, but I do that in OBS Studio, and that's in 1080p. But when I do the playing parts of the video, I'm on this camera here, which is 4K, and one of my missions is to upgrade all of the videos, apart from the live stream, because I'm not really paying StreamYard's exorbitant monthly fee for an hour once a week on a Friday. I'm looking at upgrading all of my videos to 4K. At the moment, the 4K parts of the video have to be squashed down to 1080p because, you can't have part of the video in 4K and part of the video in 1080. So you have to go with the lowest common denominator. But that is that answers your question. That's the resolution I use, and I'm looking eventually, hopefully before the end of the year, to hook everything up to 4K. This camera here will work as a 4K webcam, but the problem is it gets very, very, very kind of glitchy and draggy on this PC. Maybe I need to upgrade to a higher spec PC. We shall see, but it's what I'm looking into. I tell you what. Let's lighten the mood a little bit, shall we? We're halfway through. Let's go and take a look at some pictures of guitars. That always cheers you up, doesn't it? You're looking at pictures of guitars. Some good old-fashioned guitar pornography. You can't beat it. And what have we got here? Let me just go to my screen share and pull that up. We're starting off this week with an offering from Cal B. This is his lap steel rig. You may have seen it a couple of weeks ago on in this very slot on the live stream. Cal B's rather tasty looking, rather earthy and organic looking homemade lap steel that he's exploring the wonderful world of. Well, this is what he plays it through. This looks like a Joyo amp of some kind. Looks very much like a Joyo version of a Black Star Fly or something like that. And then we have a pedal down here that I have a lot of fond memories of, the Sonic Ache Twiggy Blues. Great little pedal. And then what we got here? A Fender wah pedal. Is that a wah pedal? Yeah, it says wah on there, doesn't it? Lap steel through a wah pedal. That's going to sound fun, isn't it? But that's Carl B's lap steel rig. Well, he said, yeah, Fender Tried Light Wah, Sonic Ache Twiggy Blues, Joyo MA10B amp, and Rocco Cat. Let's have a look at Rocco. There he is there. Yes, that is the cat face. Why are you disturbing me? That's that face, isn't it? Moving on, we've got another parts caster from the chap who won the parts caster competition a little while ago on here, the marvellously talented Chris Otterwell. So what have we got here? Roasted maple neck with stainless steel frets, Lola pickups, and a Wilkinson trem. That is... well, it's the bee's knees, really, isn't it? You can't... if Strats are your thing, that is... I mean, that's, a higher spec guitar than I think anything that will ever come out of the Fender factory, even the Fender custom shop. That's beautiful. And I do like a tortoiseshell pickguard. That is well known. Then what we got here? David Thompson's baritone Squire, like a Cabronita type Squire, but a baritone. Normally I can look at a guitar and just the look of it tells me it's a baritone because of the longer length and everything, but just maybe it's the angle of the photograph there and everything, but it's it just looks like a normal six string, a normal kind of regular tuned guitar. I'm in two minds about a baritone guitar because there are times when I think that would be a really, like when I was doing the album, Dougal's Treats, link available in the description after this video, after this live stream finishes. There were a couple of parts on that where I thought a baritone would work really well there, but I didn't have one. But it's like I would use it probably 3 times a year, and then it'd be kind of standing there on the stand, not getting used. So it's like, is it worth the investment? But I don't know. Maybe we'll see. See how strong the itch needs to be scratched for a baritone. Watch this space. Then another one from David Thompson. What we got here? This is, let's see if I can't make out. Oh, it's an Airline, isn't it? Yes, one of those. Airline Bighorn. Yes, I put the title there. Indeed. Yeah, how it's not the Bo Diddley kind of shaped guitar, but it has that kind of look of it, doesn't it? It's that sort of oddball 60s retro kind of thing that that Bo Diddley used to have a penchant for. Yes, really retro looking. What's up with those pickups? Kind of like, yeah. Incidentally, I've just had a thought come into my head. If any of you want to send me sound clips of some of these guitars, along with the pictures, then I'm sure there's a way we could work that into proceedings. Leave that one with me. But if you want to do that, start sending some MP3 files over with the pictures. We'll see what we can do. Then Derek Stopperton, his Yamaha Pacifica, from the days when Polaroid ruled the world, no doubt. This looks like one of the early ones from, was it 93 or so they came out, and really groundbreaking, game-changing guitar. They proved that you could buy a guitar for 200 quid that wasn't made of plywood, which was revolutionary at the time. Indeed, yeah. I mean, Squire Strats in the early 90s were made of plywood. It was just an accepted thing. And then Yamaha came along and said, okay, here's a guitar made of solid alder. And then suddenly nobody was making guitars out of plywood anymore. What we got here? Oh, Gary Shaw, session guitar legend that is Gary Shaw. This is, I believe, his current favourite squeeze, his PRS S2 Studio. Kind of the PRS take on a HSS Strat kind of thing, but before they came out with that that other HSS Strat, the Fiorelli, is it? I can't remember what it's called, but you know that one that's a signature model for some guitar player I've never heard of. But you know, you got two sort of very Diamond-looking pickups there. Speaking of Diamond, there's some that brand is going to be appearing on the channel at some point in the not too distant future. Yeah, the that bridge pickup there and that middle and neck pickup, they're very much the pickups that were in the PRS Vela that I had, which was a guitar I really wanted to love but couldn't quite get there. But Gary is a man who is besotted with this guitar. So, yeah, I'm going to put the feelers out and see if I can get my hands on one of those to give it a try and see what I think of it. And there's another one from Gary. This is his Schecter 30th anniversary, which he informs me this has been a solid workhorse throughout his illustrious career. You know, Gary is a Strat guy, it has to be said. And he sent me some music over recently that he's been recording, and dearie me, he knows how to put a guitar to good use, it has to be said. And yeah, I mean, there's a strong argument for saying that the HSS Strat is, you know, possibly the Swiss Army knife of all guitars. And if you're a jobbing session player like Gary, then I can understand the appeal. A couple of acoustic guitars from George Wall. What have we got here? Well, we've got a 4-string bass made by Phoenix. Does anyone else remember the 90s Phoenix guitars? They were absolutely fantastic. They were part of that wave of budget guitar manufacturers that, you know, suddenly realized, hang on, why don't we make a good guitar rather than just, you know, kind of screw some plywood together and give it a nice paint job. I had a Phoenix Telly back in the 90s, and it was my first ever Telecaster experience. And yes, it set the ball rolling for me. Then what have we got here? A Suzuki acoustic. Yes. Oh, I remember them well. George tells me both of these guitars are regular working tools for him, and enjoys playing them immensely. Let's have a look at this one. This one comes from Mark Card. This is his Starcaster with a Squier Classic Vibe Starcaster, no less, which is upgraded with Fender wide-range pickups. Are they the actual proper Fender wide-range pickups with the cunifer magnets? Because people do get a little bit kind of, you know, what's the word? Pedantic, I suppose, about those. It's not a proper wide range pickup unless it's got those copper, nickel, iron cunifer magnets, which are like rocking horse poo to get hold of, apparently. But yeah, I got to tell you, I'm not a Starcaster guy. I know Steve Cassidy is in the chat there, and he's probably salivating over that one because he very definitely is. Steve, you need to send me some pictures of your Starcasters, mate. You know, I'll chuck them in the pile. But yes, it's whatever floats your boat, mate. I'm not a Starcaster guy, but I understand that a lot of people are. So good luck to you. Then now this is a guitar that I very much covet. I remember Shergold guitars from the 70s and 80s myself, and you know, I remember a guitar player that I used to know. You know, used to have one, and he was like sort of a couple of years ahead of me, and he could play things that I aspired to. He could play the opening riff from Layla, which made him absolutely godlike in my 15-year-old opinion back then. And so, you know, and he had a Shergold Masquerader, I think he had. And you know, so the name Shergold is burned into my memory. And this just I don't normally like sort of offsetty looking guitars, but that just looks like it's doing 100 miles an hour stood still, doesn't it? You know, and those kind of Filtertrons and the Cabronita look with that sort of slightly Firebirdish kind of section on the body. That is a guitar that I want it. I just want that guitar. That's that, and that's all I'll say. Let's. I was going to say let's move on, but that is the selection for this evening, gents. Thank you so much for sending over all of those pictures. No, it's not a neck through Jay Ao Young. I saw the Nick Jennison review of that for it's Guitar Interactive he works for, doesn't he? It's not a neck through, it's a bolt on, but it's just got that sort of raised centre section to give it that Firebird kind of look. Oh dear me, I'm sweating this beer out quicker than it's going in. Let's have a little bit of a look and see what else we've got in the chat. I just want to check before I do that though. Have I got a viewer's tale for tonight? I do indeed. Got a viewer's tale, so I'll read that one out in a bit. What else have I missed? Glenn Michael Thompson, there was a point in the 90s when the bar was raised for affordable guitars. There definitely was. I remember the kind of brouhaha about that first Pacifica 112, because the Pacifica had been out for a couple of years. The Pacifica sort of replaced the what was that sort of, was it the Yamaha RGX? I know, because Ibanez had the RG series, isn't it? But I think it was a Yamaha RGX as well that was like their Super Strat, and they replaced it with like this slightly odd looking Strat style thing called a Pacifica, which I didn't know how it was pronounced at the time. I was reading about it in guitar magazines, and I'm thinking, is that Pacifisa? Or, and then, eventually I figured out that it was Pacifica. But they were, slightly more high-end instruments, and then came out with this this Pacifica 112, and it was just game-changing. I was playing on the infamous, or is it famous, Northeast Working Men's Club circuit at the time. And suddenly you just started seeing all the guitarists, because if you're in a band, you tend to go and check out other bands. And suddenly all the other bands I was seeing, the guitarist would maybe be playing a Strat, and then their backup guitar would be one of these Pacifica 112s. They were being used on stages in sort of semi-pro, situations, and they were the same sort of price as those. Does anyone remember Rockwood guitars or the early Tanglewood guitars? All those Strat copies from the late 80s, early 90s, where the forearm contour had like the kind of dark burst kind of going round the corner on the forearm cut, so you could basically, so it was disguising the fact that it was made of plywood. And suddenly for the same sort of money that you were paying for one of those things, you could get a giggable guitar, and and not long after that you got Phoenix guitars as well, which we mentioned earlier. So the 90s was when budget guitar manufacturers properly got their act together and just stopped making guitar shaped objects out of plywood, bubblegum and snot. Tom Clark saying, that's my Shergold. I'll removing the top screws to mod the sound brighter. Okay, yeah, well, do a before and after, mate. Do a before and after. And if you want to send the MP3s over to me, it's the sort of thing that I'm thinking about we could include in this viewers guitars slot. Because now that we've figured out how that audio and video doesn't freeze on the intro, maybe we could work that into the viewers guitar section. Anyway, it's time for a viewer's tale, I think. Who's this one from? I do apologise. I've forgotten to kind of make a note of who this came from, but you'll know who you are. It says, hi, John. I've reached that stage in life to be officially regarded as an old fart. I'm even older than you, no offence. So these heroes that I've met might not be known to many Fatacasters, but you said you'd run out of these, so I thought I'd post it. It is rather long, so feel free to edit it or ignore it. Being a massive Beatles fan, about 15 or 20 years ago, my wife and I booked one of those Beatles weekends in Liverpool coach tours. Much to my disappointment, it didn't include a visit to the Cavern Club, so we left the tour and made our way to Matthew Street and went into the club. It was about midday and pretty dead. After a few pints of Guinness, I decided to leave when my wife said, "Look at that man who's just come in. Isn't he one of the searchers?" I looked and sadly saw it wasn't. But then several other similar-looking men started coming in and greeting each other, and the club started to fill up. Naturally, I thought something was going on, so I decided to stay and get another Guinness and a vat of wine for the wife. When I eventually returned to our table, there were a few women sitting next to my wife chatting to her, several of the men standing around, and several of the men standing around them. Evidently, the women were the wives of those men. They explained their husbands had formed a charity band called the Mersey Cats, and were doing a group of Liverpool musicians who'd played in bands at the Cavern in its heyday, and got together to perform and raise money for charity. They were there all afternoon, not to perform, but to present a special wheelchair they had purchased to someone who played wheelchair basketball. Needless to say, when I knew who they were, I stayed. They couldn't have been more friendly, chatting to us about their times playing in the club, etc., and treated my wife and myself as if we were personal friends. Much to my shame and too much Guinness, I can't recall everyone who was there. Those I do remember were King Size Taylor, Lee Curtis, Wes Paul, someone from the Big Three, and someone from Rory Storm and the Hurricanes. There's a band to conjure with. I think that was Ringo's first band, wasn't it? I believe Brian Epstein offered Pete Best and King Size Taylor's girl. Let me go back. I believe Brian Epstein offered Pete Best a job with the Lee Curtis All-Stars, who he also managed to soften the blow of him being sacked from the Beatles. King Size Taylor's girlfriend was Cilla Black, and he used to invite her on stage with his band The Dominoes to sing a few songs. That started her career. Whether that was a good thing or not, you can decide. Oh, I think I've already decided. I saw him on stage a few years later during the Beatles week in Liverpool, still rocking. Google them if you don't know them, the ones that helped start it all, but sadly never made it big. That's a lovely, heartwarming tale. We tend to think of, the Beatles and the Mersey sound and all that, but they were part of a scene in Liverpool. They didn't exist in their own little vacuum. And, they were just one of the bands on the scene. And, just the fact that, you got down to sit and have a few pints of Guinness and a good old chinwag with some contemporaries who could I'm betting they relayed some stories about, what it was like in the dressing rooms with Lennon and McCartney, and and funny anecdotes and stuff like that about what happened in those days. If they did share any of those stories with you, then that's the kind of fodder I'm looking for. Jay Aoyong is saying, were the Stone Roses from Merseyside? No, mate, they were from Manchester, which is very close, but it's like any two big towns in the UK which are like really close, like Manchester and Liverpool. There is a natural, kind of animosity there. It's, you go to that other town over there, and you know what? The buses are a different colour. Oh, dear me. It's one of those kind of things. Gordo Canuck is saying the Beatles, like Cream, rise to the top for a reason. Real exceptional talent. Yeah, I'll go along with that. In the whenever there's any talk of overrated musicians and bands, there is always the name of the Beatles is thrown up. But what I would say to that is, imagine what the musical landscape would be like without the Beatles. You wouldn't have had any of those great albums from the 70s by artists that grew up listening to the Beatles and were inspired. Without the Beatles, you wouldn't have had Queen. Without the Beatles, or not in the way we know them, without the Beatles, you certainly wouldn't have had ELO. The Beatles, as I said in a recent video, brought sophistication back in, along with Brian Wilson, it has to be said, brought sophistication into the field of rock music, where it had up till then been lacking. There were sort of glimmers of that, I think, that sophistication creeping into popular music, rock and roll, if you like, towards the end of Buddy Holly's life. Songs like True Love Ways and Raining in My Heart and stuff like that, where he's bringing in orchestral instruments, and it's not just 1, 4, 5, 12-bar blues, 3-chord trick songs. But, it would have been, that's one of the great what ifs, isn't it? What if Buddy Holly hadn't got on the plane that night? But anyway, Tom Clark, indeed, mate. Without the crickets, you may not have had the Beatles. Yes. Well, echoing what I just said there about Buddy Holly. Johnny Random, without the Beatles, we wouldn't have had Black Sabbath. Indeed, yeah. John Robson, guitarist, educate Grandpa Joe what the gypsy is. He's going there anyway. The gypsy, as in the Gypsy Rover, the pub in Redcar. Yeah. Sometimes, Balder, mate, you are a little bit too oblique for my kind of baldy-headed, thick-headed northern intellect to latch onto, mate. Let's have a look. Rentakill saying, hi John, hi all, late on tonight, but here with 10 minutes to go. Oh, you were in earlier, mate. You were first through the door. You know, or do you just log in and then scuttle off and kind of do other things? Chris Otterwell saying, just reading Stuart McConey's new book on the Beatles called With a Little Help from Their Friends. A different take on the story, enjoying it. I shall have to get round to it. I haven't read a decent book in ages. I just don't have the time at the moment to read. I got into those Audible talking books, but thinking, well, rather than listening to podcasts on this PC while I'm editing videos on that PC, I'll listen to talking books as a way of being able to catch up with my reading. But you can't I can't do that. I just lose track of what's going on in the book. Steve Cassidy, there you go. I've heard the Blues Guitar Bible is a good book. I can recommend it, mate. I can recommend it. Let me know if you want a copy. You can do a review of it. Anyway. Oh, dear me. Right, where are we? That was the last of me beer, by the way, so good job we're coming towards the end of the stream. Peter Nicholson saying, with this hot weather, how is Dougal coping? Two Akitas zonked out and we put fans on them. Yeah, Dougal is, he's not an energetic dog when he's out, mainly because you can't trust him off the lead. You just have to tire him out in the backyard. So I tried that today and he just, he wasn't interested in chasing the ball. It was just like, no. He chased the ball once, caught it, and refused to give it back. I think I'm running again after that in this weather. Get a life. I think that was the kind of look that I got from him. Let's have a wee look here, see what we got. Jay Aoyong is saying, wait, 20 degrees Celsius is hot. In the UK, it is, mate. It's in this room at the moment. It is currently looking at my little desk, clock, calendar, thermostat. Not thermostat. Thermometer thing. That's the word I'm looking for. It is currently 27 degrees in this room here, and that is that's not an Englishman's comfort zone. It's not this Englishman's comfort zone. I don't deal well with hot weather, and the majority of my fellow countrymen are the same. It seems. Colin Falcon saying it's currently 29 degrees in Falcon Towers. Oh dear me, mate. Well, are you there in your shorts with all the fans on and cold beers kind of to hand? I hope you are, mate, because in about 5 minutes' time, that's exactly where I'm going to be. Jay Aoyong saying, wow, 38 degrees Celsius earlier today. Yeah, we wouldn't cope with that. We had a brief heat wave about 3 or 4 years ago where we had a week of that temperature and I was just wilting. But here's the thing, we're not geared for it in the UK. Nowhere has air conditioning in the UK. It just doesn't. It's just not a thing in the UK. If you want air conditioning, you've got to go and hang out in the freezer aisle of your local supermarket. Take a folding chair and hang out there. But that's pretty much the only place you're going to find anywhere air conditioned in the UK. It's like we get the opposite end of the spectrum. We get an inch and a half of snow, and half the country grinds to a halt. It's it. My missus, as you know, she's Canadian, and she laughs at the way we deal with weather in the UK. Francis Chambers is saying 24 degrees in his back bedroom. It is only a recent thing in the UK where we've started using centigrade or Celsius for kind of both ends of the scale. Until very, very recently, you'd describe summer temperatures in Fahrenheit. Oh, it's 80 degrees. And winter temperatures in centigrade. Oh, it's going to be 0 degrees. And that's just one of those things that was just an accepted norm in the UK. Where people would always understand what unit of measurement you were referring to, but we seem to have standardised it now, which is kind of a shame. Really, it was one of our little idiosyncrasies, one of our little quirks. Anyway, chaps, we're coming up to the last couple of minutes. Is there anything else I need to reference? Michael Purcell's cars has air conditioner. Calby's saying, best get AC, the heat is coming. Okay, well, yeah, we've been saying that for a while. It's, it's either the heat is coming or the ice age is coming. Didn't the Clash sing about that? The ice age, London Calling, yeah. Where are we? Chris Otterwell saying, John's first book is great, very easy to follow. Well, the third one will be available. Here's a shock announcement. The third one will be available later on this year, How to Play Melodic Rock Lead Guitar. I'm carving some time out in the diary in late summer to get that book finished. The text is already finished. I just need to do the videos, the backing tracks, and the tabs. So I reckon if I get my head down and do a solid week or so on that, then I can have that offering ready. So I will keep you posted in due course. But anyway, chaps, we're coming up to 59 minutes in, and I've run out of beer. And, I want some more beer, and that's downstairs. So I'm not going to run downstairs and then come back up here for what are remaining 30 seconds of the stream. So I'm going to wrap it up there, chaps. Thank you once again. As I promised, roughly an hour of a fat, bald northern bloke talking bollocks for an hour. It's the same every week, and you keep coming back, and I'll keep on doing it till you're sick of me. But for now, I'm going to go and get another beer, and I'll see you all in the next one. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and stay sane. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.